The first warning should have been the strangers in my grandmother's driveway. Not one car, but two, both parked crooked like they had been unloading in a hurry. The front door was wide open, and a man I'd never seen was carrying a box through it like my memories were just square footage. I was still wearing navy scrubs from a 12-hour overnight shift, the kind that left my socks damp and my eyes burning. I had stopped by Grandma June's house because the gutter over the porch had been sagging and rain was coming in that weekend. I figured I'd check it, take a few pictures, then go home and sleep until my next shift. That house had been quiet for almost 2 years, but it had never felt empty to me. Grandma June had left it to me in her will, not to the family, not to my parents to manage until they felt like being generous, to me. I remembered sitting in the attorney's office with my hands folded in my lap while he read her words, and I remembered my father staring at the wall like he had somewhere better to be. So when I pulled up and saw strangers walking in and out, my brain refused to make sense of it at first. I sat there with my hand still on the gear shift, watching a woman carry a lamp across the porch. Then a middle-aged man came out holding a roll of packing tape, and something hot and sharp moved through my chest. I got out before I had any kind of plan. The man looked irritated before I even spoke. He had one hand on the door frame and the other on his hip, like I was interrupting his day. I said, "Why are you in my grandmother's house?" He blinked, then gave this short laugh that sounded more annoyed than amused. "Your grandmother's house," he said. "No, this is our place. We bought it last month." I stood there with my hospital badge still clipped to my pocket, my name showing in blue plastic letters, Nora Bennett. I remember looking down at it for half a second, like I needed proof I was still myself. Then I said, "You bought it from who?" The man's expression shifted just enough for me to see he realized this wasn't a normal neighbor dispute. He stepped back and called over his shoulder, "Denise, can you grab the folder?" A woman appeared behind him, cautious now, holding a manila envelope against her chest. He pulled out copies of closing paperwork, and my father's name was there in print. Mark Bennett, acting on behalf of Nora Bennett, seller. For a second, the porch seemed too bright. The white railing, the chipped blue flower pot Grandma June used to keep beside the steps, the welcome mat I had bought her 3 Christmases ago. Everything was still there, but it all looked borrowed. I stared at a signature that was supposed to be mine, and it slanted wrong in a way only I would notice. I didn't argue with Paul and Denise Harlan. They looked uncomfortable, not guilty, and I didn't have enough air in my lungs to explain the difference yet. I took photos of the papers with shaking hands, thanked them because my grandmother had raised me to be polite even when my world was being handled by strangers, and walked back to my car. By the time I shut the door, my phone was already in my hand. There were no emails from my dad, no missed calls about a sale, no text asking me to come sign anything, or even pretending I had been included. What I did have were messages from my younger sister, Chloe, sent 2 days earlier with palm tree emojis and a screenshot of some beach resort. She had written, "Dad finally came through, and I'm getting the car too." I sat in that driveway long enough for the new owners to stop looking through the window. I could see Chloe in my head, smiling with those perfect white teeth, turning my grandmother's house into plane tickets and a down payment. I could see my father's face even clearer, calm and superior, already prepared to explain why what he did wasn't really wrong. He had always been good at turning theft into responsibility when I was the one losing something. I started the car and drove straight to my parents' house with both hands locked on the wheel. I wasn't crying. That came later, in a quieter room, when I could afford it. Right then, all I felt was a clean, bitter focus, because someone had signed my name, sold the only place that ever felt like mine, and expected me to act grateful for being robbed. My mother's car was in the driveway when I got there, along with Chloe's little white hatchback covered in influencer stickers. Through the front window, I could see open suitcases on the living room floor. I parked behind them so nobody could leave without asking me to move. Then I walked up to the door of the house I grew up in and opened it without knocking. My mother saw me first from the kitchen. She was holding a dish towel, and for 1 second her face looked startled, almost guilty. Then she did what she always did when trouble walked in wearing my name. She tightened her mouth and acted inconvenienced. "Nora," she said, "you can't just barge in here." I didn't answer her. My eyes had already gone to the living room, where Chloe was sitting cross-legged on the couch with her laptop open and 3 suitcases spread across the carpet. A straw hat with a price tag still on it sat beside her, along with a stack of glossy resort printouts and a pair of sunglasses she definitely couldn't afford 2 weeks earlier. She glanced up from her screen and smiled like she had been waiting for me. "Wow," she said. "You look awful." Then she tapped her nails against the laptop and added, "I was going to send you pictures from the resort, but honestly, you'd probably just be weird about it." That was Chloe's gift. She could jab you in the ribs and still sound bored. She had done it since we were kids, and my parents always treated it like personality instead of cruelty. I looked at her suitcase, at the little plastic luggage tags shaped like seashells, and my stomach turned. My father came in from the hallway wearing reading glasses and that calm face he used when he had already decided the ending of a conversation. Mark Bennett never rushed when he was cornered. He slowed down, lowered his voice, and waited for everyone else to look unreasonable beside him. "What's going on?" he asked. "You have work tonight, don't you?" I held up my phone with the photos from the Harlan's paperwork. "There are people moving into Grandma June's house," I said. "They said they bought it from you." My voice sounded flat, even to me, and that seemed to bother him more than shouting would have. He took off his glasses and sighed. "Okay," he said. "So that's what this is." That sentence told me more than any confession could have. Not shock, not confusion, not concern that strangers were in a house he thought belonged to me, just irritation, like I had found a receipt he meant to throw away. "So it's true," I said. "You sold it." My mother stepped closer, her towel twisted between both hands. "Your father did what made sense," she said. "That house was sitting there, Nora, empty, collecting dust. Your grandmother was sentimental, and you know she didn't always think practically near the end." I felt something in me go very still. Grandma June had been sharp until her last week, sharper than anyone in that room. She remembered birthdays, bank passwords, which neighbor had borrowed her ladder in 1998 and never brought it back. My mother knew that, but it was easier to call a dead woman confused than admit she had left me something on purpose. I looked at my father. "How did you sell a house with my name on the deed?" He rubbed his forehead like I was giving him a headache. "I handled the paperwork," he said. "You're impossible to reach half the time. You work nights, you sleep weird hours, and you don't answer messages. Somebody had to make a practical decision." "Did you sign my name?" He didn't answer right away. Chloe stopped typing. My mother looked down at the carpet, and that was when I knew this wasn't just my father acting alone in some private panic. The room had known before I did. "Dad," I said, "did you sign my name?" He leaned one shoulder against the doorway. "I signed on your behalf," he said. "There's a difference." There wasn't. We all knew there wasn't, but the way he said it made it clear he had practiced the wording. I could almost picture him explaining it to a title company, maybe smiling that steady insurance office smile, making fraud sound like a scheduling issue. Chloe shut her laptop a little too hard. "Can we not do this right now?" she said. "My flight is in 4 days." I turned toward her slowly. "You knew?" She rolled her eyes, but her face had lost some color. "I knew Dad was helping me," she said. "That's what parents do. They help their kids when they're trying to build something. A vacation is not building something. It's content," she snapped. "You wouldn't understand." There it was, polished and ridiculous. My grandmother's kitchen, her rose bushes, the bedroom where I used to sleep when my parents forgot to pick me up after school, all reduced to content. Chloe said it like the word had weight, like it could turn anything selfish into an investment if she said it confidently enough. My father lifted a hand between us. "Enough. Chloe has had a hard year. She needed a reset and she needed reliable transportation. You have a career. You have an apartment. You are fine." I stared at him, and it was almost impressive how neatly he had arranged it in his head. I had less because I complained less. Chloe needed more because she demanded more. My stability had become a reason to take from me. "That house was mine," I said. "It was family property," he replied. "No," I said. "It was mine." His jaw tightened then, just for a second. "You're not dragging us into some ugly fight over an old house," he said. "I did what was best for this family." I looked past him at the living room wall. There were framed photos of Chloe in recital costumes, Chloe at cheer competitions, Chloe at the lake, Chloe in a cap and gown. I found one old school picture of myself near the bottom, from 8th grade, half hidden behind a ceramic vase. Even in my parents' house, I looked like someone they had forgotten to remove completely. I put my phone back in my pocket. "I'm calling a lawyer." My mother made a sharp sound. "Don't you dare!" Chloe stood up. "You're seriously going to ruin my trip?" That was the question that finished it for me. Not whether I was okay, not whether Grandma June's wishes mattered, just whether the beach photos were still happening. My father's face hardened. "Be careful, Nora," he said. "Once you start something like this, you can't control where it goes." I nodded, because for once, he was right. Then I walked out before anyone could dress the damage up as family love. In the driveway, I sat behind the wheel and pulled up the number for Ryan Miller, the boy who used to skateboard past Grandma June's porch and the man who now handled real estate disputes downtown. He answered on the second ring. I said, "Ryan, I need help. My dad sold Grandma June's house, and I think he forged my signature." There was a pause, then the scrape of a chair moving. His voice changed when he spoke again, quiet and serious. "Tell me everything," he said. Ryan's office was on the 12th floor of a glass building downtown, the kind of place where every sound felt too clean. The elevator opened into a lobby with gray carpet, a water cooler, and a receptionist who spoke in a whisper even though nobody else was there. I had come straight from home with a folder under one arm and a shoebox of Grandma June's old papers tucked against my ribs. Ryan met me at the door before the receptionist could finish saying my name. He looked older than the kid I remembered from the neighborhood, but not in a bad way. He had the same careful eyes, just sharper now, and his tie was loosened like he had already been working for hours. He didn't hug me or give me one of those soft pity faces people use when they don't know what to do. He just said, "Come in. Let's see what they touched." That sentence helped more than sympathy would have. It made the whole thing sound physical and trackable, like footprints on wet tile. Not some messy family argument where everyone got to have their version. Something had been touched, altered, filed, and recorded. I sat across from his desk and emptied everything in front of him. The will was in a plastic sleeve, still folded along the lines from the day the attorney handed me a copy. There were property tax notices, utility bills, a few letters from Grandma June, and a birthday card where she had written that the house would always be my soft place to land. I hated that Ryan had to read that part, but I also needed someone else to see it. He worked quietly at first. He scanned the will, checked the probate stamp, then pulled up county property records on one monitor. His office smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner, and the only sound for several minutes was his mouse clicking. I watched his face instead of the screen because I was afraid of what my own name might look like when a lie was wrapped around it. "Here," he said finally, turning the monitor toward me. "Transfer from June Whitaker to Nora Bennett after probate. Clean." He clicked again. "And here's the sale to Paul and Denise Harlan last month." My name sat under the word seller. Below it was a signature that tried to be mine and missed in all the small ways. The N started too wide, the B in Bennett looped wrong, and the end of my last name climbed upward like somebody had rushed through it. I had signed enough hospital forms at 3 a.m. to know my own tired handwriting, and that wasn't it. "That's not mine," I said. "I know," Ryan said, not gently. "And that's where this stops being a family mess and becomes a legal one." He opened the scanned closing packet and started moving through the pages. There was a deed, a seller's affidavit, a statement showing the sale price, and a wire instruction page. Then he paused on an email printout attached near the back. The address looked like mine at first glance, close enough to fool someone who wanted the file off their desk, but one letter was wrong. My throat tightened. "I've never seen that email address." Ryan leaned closer to the screen. "It says you authorized your father to sign for you because your work schedule kept you from attending closing." He read the date under his breath, then looked back at me. "Where were you that week?" "At the hospital," I said. 4 overnights in a row. I barely answered real texts, much less created a new email account to sell my house." He nodded once and kept going. "So we have a forged signature and a fake authorization email." Then he opened another page, zoomed in, and his expression changed. It wasn't surprise exactly. It was recognition, and I didn't like it. He tapped the notary stamp with one finger against the glass of the monitor. "What?" I asked. "I've seen this notary before," he said. "Not on anything good." He sat back and rubbed his jaw, thinking. "Your dad didn't just scribble your name in hope. Someone helped make this look official." That was the first moment I felt afraid instead of angry. Not because my father had betrayed me. I already knew that. What scared me was the planning. The fake email, the notary, the clean little packet of lies moving through offices while I was changing IV bags and answering call lights. Ryan printed everything and laid the pages across his desk in order. Grandma June's will, the deed to me, the sale paperwork, the fake email, the notary page. Seeing it lined up like that made my father's excuses from the living room look even uglier. He hadn't made one practical decision under pressure. He had built a bridge across my consent and walked my inheritance over it. "What can I do?" I asked. Ryan folded his hands on top of the papers. "First, we send a formal demand. He gets 24 hours to put the full sale proceeds into escrow and cooperate with unwinding the transaction." His voice stayed calm, but there was steel under it. "If he refuses, we file civil claims for fraud, conversion, and whatever else fits after I review everything. We also notify the district attorney because this isn't just about money." I looked at the papers again. "What happens to him?" "If the evidence holds up, he could face criminal charges," Ryan said. "Forgery, Identity-related fraud, filing false documents. I'm not going to dress it up for you, Nora. This is serious. For a second, I saw my father teaching me to ride a bike behind the grocery store, one hand on the seat until he let go without warning. Then I saw him in the hallway, brushing Chloe's hair, while I stood there with a permission slip he forgot to sign. My memories had always argued with each other like that, one decent moment trying to excuse 10 careless ones. "Send the letter," I said. Ryan watched me for a beat. "Once I do, he'll know you're not bluffing." "He already knew what he did," I said. "Now he can know I do too." By noon, the demand letter had been emailed, faxed, and sent by courier to my father's office. I drove home with copies in a folder on the passenger seat, and the strange feeling that the car had become a boundary line. On one side was the daughter who used to absorb things to keep the peace. On the other was someone my family had never bothered preparing for. My phone started buzzing before I even unlocked my apartment door. Dad, Mom, Chloe, Dad again. I let each call ring out while I set the folder on my kitchen counter and washed my hands like I could scrub the courthouse dust off my skin. When I finally answered, I put the phone on speaker and left it on the counter between us. My father didn't say hello. He said, "What the hell is this letter, Nora?" My father's voice came through tight and sharp, like the letter had insulted him personally. Not the forgery, not the sale, the letter. He sounded less like a man caught doing something wrong and more like a man offended that anyone had written it down. I looked at the phone on my counter and kept my hands flat beside it. "It means I know what you did," I said. "It means you have 24 hours to put the money in escrow and help Ryan unwind the sale." He laughed once, hard and humorless. "Ryan Miller," he said. "That kid from down the street? You're letting him turn you against your own father?" "You did that part yourself." There was a pause. I could hear movement behind him, maybe a door closing at his office. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "You need to think very carefully before you keep going. This kind of accusation follows people. It affects jobs. It affects your mother. It affects Chloe." I almost smiled at how quickly he listed everyone except me. He still thought the center of the damage was his reputation, my mother's comfort, and Chloe's vacation. My house was just the object in the middle, inconvenient because it had an owner who wouldn't stay quiet. "You signed my name," I said. "You made it look like I gave you permission. You sold Grandma June's house and used the money." "You don't know what you're talking about," he snapped. "There was no stealing. Families move resources around when someone needs help." "Resources," I repeated. "That's what you're calling my inheritance?" He exhaled loudly. "You weren't using it. You have an apartment. You have steady work. Chloe is trying to build a future, and sometimes a parent has to make hard decisions." I stared at the chipped edge of my kitchen counter because looking at the phone felt too personal. The fake email had said I was too busy at work to attend closing. He had taken the truth of my life, the long shifts and missed sleep, and turned it into a tool against me. That part made my stomach twist more than I expected. "Her future was a resort package and a car deposit," I said. "You always do this," he said. "You make yourself sound like the victim because nobody clapped hard enough for you. Chloe needed one real chance, and your grandmother's stubborn little will was standing in the way." The words landed clean. Not messy, not accidental. He had resented that will from the second it was read, and now he was finally saying it without the polite cover. I leaned closer to the phone. Grandma June knew exactly what she was doing. "She favored you," he said. "Everyone knows it." "She protected me," I said. "There's a difference." His silence changed after that. It got heavier, more careful. Then he said, "Fine. Maybe I should have handled the paperwork differently. But you're blowing this up when we could solve it inside the family." "Inside the family means you decide what I'm allowed to lose." "It means I transfer you something and we move on," he said. "I can get you a portion by the end of the week, not all of it. Some of it is already committed. Chloe's trip is non-refundable, and the dealership has a deposit." For a few seconds, I honestly couldn't speak. He was trying to negotiate with money from a house he had no right to sell, and he still expected me to respect the vacation itinerary? The old version of me would have tried to explain why that hurt. The version standing in my kitchen didn't feel the need to teach him basic decency. "No," I said. "All of it goes into escrow." His voice sharpened again. "You are not sending your father to court over this." "You sent yourself there when you forged my signature." "Stop using that word." "Why?" I asked. "Is it the accurate part that bothers you?" He scoffed, but it came too fast. "You can't prove I forged anything." I went still. Ryan had warned me that panic made people step outside their script, but hearing it happen in real time felt different. I had accused him in the living room, yes, but I had not told him what Ryan had found in the county file. I had not mentioned the fake email address, the notary stamp, or the scanned closing packet. I picked up the phone and held it closer. "How do you know what Ryan can prove?" He didn't answer. "You haven't seen the file," I said. "I didn't tell you what was in it, so why are you already defending yourself against the evidence?" The quiet stretched long enough for the refrigerator motor to click on behind me. Then his tone changed so abruptly, it almost sounded like another person had taken the phone. "Nora," he said, softer now, "I am asking you as your father. Don't do this to us." I closed my eyes. There it was. Not remorse, not even fear for what he had done to me. Just a last attempt to put me back in the role he understood, the daughter who swallowed the ugly thing because naming it made everyone uncomfortable. "Did Chloe know where the money came from?" I asked. "She knew I was helping her." "That's not what I asked." "She didn't sign anything," he said. My eyes opened. "That's not what I asked either." He let out a tired breath. "Don't drag your sister into this. She has enough pressure right now, and she doesn't need you attacking her because you're angry at me." That was answer enough. Chloe hadn't just accepted a surprise. She had known the house was being sold. Maybe not every legal detail, but enough. Enough to pack swimsuits while strangers carried boxes into the place Grandma June had promised me. "You have 24 hours, I said. His voice went flat. "You'll regret choosing a house over your family." "No," I said. "You chose that for me." I ended the call before he could say my name again. Then I stood alone in my kitchen with the phone still warm in my hand, feeling the last soft part of me pull back from them. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't hoping someone would admit the damage and make it smaller. Chloe sent 3 texts within the hour. "You're selfish. You're ruining everything." The last one said, "Hope you're happy when Dad loses his job." I read it twice, then grabbed my keys because I wanted one answer from her face, not from a screen. I didn't drive to my parents' house angry in the loud way people imagine. I drove there quiet, with my phone fully charged and the voice recorder already open. I had learned in the hospital that people rewrite ugly moments the second they're over, and I wasn't giving my family the gift of a blurry memory. Their porch light was on when I arrived. Through the curtains, I could see Chloe moving around the living room, probably still packing for the trip she thought she could guilt me into saving. My mother opened the door before I knocked a second time, and her eyes were red in a way that might have moved me once. That night, all I saw was a woman mourning consequences instead of the thing that caused them. "You need to stop," she said. "Your father is beside himself." "Good," I said. "Maybe he can use that feeling to remember where the money came from." She flinched like I had been cruel. Then she stepped aside because she knew blocking me would only make the scene bigger. I walked into the living room and found Chloe on the floor beside an open suitcase, folding swimsuits into neat little stacks. Her laptop was open on the couch, paused on a resort page with white sand, blue water, and smiling people holding drinks that cost more than my weekly groceries used to. She looked up and made a face. "Are you serious right now?" "Yes," I said. "How long have you known Dad sold Grandma June's house?" My mother moved behind me. "Nora, don't interrogate your sister." I kept my eyes on Chloe. "How long?" Chloe tossed a swimsuit into the suitcase and stood. "Dad said he was handling it," she said. "He said you weren't doing anything with the house, and it was stupid to let it sit there when the family needed money." "The family?" I said. "Or you?" Her mouth tightened. "I needed help. There's nothing wrong with that." "There is when the help comes from my stolen inheritance." She rolled her eyes, but her hands were restless. She kept touching the bracelet on her wrist, turning it around and around. "Oh my God, Nora, it's a house. It's old wood, old pipes, and a creepy backyard you were too busy to even visit half the time. Grandma made everything about you, and for once, Dad wanted to do something for me." The recorder was in my jacket pocket, screen turned inward. I could feel the weight of it against my hip, tiny and ordinary, catching every word. I took one careful breath because the next question mattered, and I needed her to answer before my mother interrupted. "Did you know he signed my name?" Chloe looked at my mother first. That glance was fast, but not fast enough. Karen's face went rigid, and Chloe saw it too, because she immediately looked back at me with a fake little laugh. "He said he had permission to take care of the paperwork," Chloe said. "He said you're always impossible to reach because of your precious hospital shifts." "So you knew I didn't sit down and sign anything?" "I didn't ask for a legal lecture," she snapped. "Dad said it was handled. I believed him because normal daughters trust their fathers." That one almost got through. Not because it was clever, but because it was familiar. In our family, trust had always meant letting Mark decide what everyone else deserved, and loyalty meant pretending the person who lost the most was selfish for noticing. I stepped closer. "You booked the resort after you knew the money came from Grandma June's house." Chloe lifted her chin. "Yeah, I booked it. And I'm not sorry. This trip was going to help my page, and the car was going to help me get brand deals without borrowing Mom's car like I'm 16. You already have your nurse thing. You have stability. I was trying to get mine." My mother finally spoke. "Your sister has worked hard too, Nora." I turned toward her. "Hard at what? Spending money she knew wasn't hers?" Chloe's face changed then. The bored act dropped, and what came through underneath was pure resentment. "You always do this," she said. "You act like being quiet makes you better than everyone. Grandma felt sorry for you because you were needy in that sad, hidden way, and now you're using her will like a weapon." I felt my pulse in my throat, but my hands stayed steady. "Grandma loved me because she paid attention," I said. "That probably looked like favoritism from a house where nobody else did." Chloe stepped closer until we were almost toe to toe. "If you keep going with this, Dad could go to prison," she said. Do you get that? He did this for me. If you cared about this family at all, you would take whatever money he can give you and move on. No, I said. He did this because he thought I'd be easier to rob than you'd be to disappoint. The room went quiet after that. My mother turned away first, wiping under one eye like I had embarrassed her. Chloe stared at me with her jaw clenched, and then she said the cleanest truth she had given me all night. If you don't drop this, you're not my sister anymore. I looked at her suitcase, the resort page, the sunglasses on the coffee table, and the little pile of new clothes with tags still attached. Then I looked back at Chloe and felt something settle. Not soft, but final. Then we finally agree on something, I said. I walked out before either of them could turn it into another argument. In the car, I locked the doors, stopped the recording, and uploaded it to the cloud before I even backed out of the driveway. Then I texted Ryan. Chloe admitted she knew the sale was happening and booked everything anyway. I recorded it. His reply came less than a minute later. Bring it in first thing. We move forward now. By the next afternoon, Ryan had filed the civil complaint and sent the recording with a written summary to the district attorney's office. My father was served at work 2 days later, in the lobby of the insurance office where he had spent years building his clean, respectable image. My mother called me that night screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "You humiliated him!" she cried. "Everyone saw!" I listened until she ran out of breath. Then I said, "No, Mom. They finally saw him clearly." I hung up and blocked her number for the night, because peace was no longer something I was willing to purchase with my own silence. The court process did not feel dramatic the way people imagine it. It felt like fluorescent lights, wooden benches, and my father looking smaller every time a new document was placed in front of the judge. Ryan didn't need to shout. He had the will, the deed, the fake email, the forged signature, the closing records, and Chloe's own voice admitting she knew enough to keep spending anyway. My father eventually took a plea deal. He admitted to felony fraud and forgery, agreed to restitution, and accepted prison time instead of dragging the case through a trial that would have exposed my mother and Chloe even further. In the civil case, the judgment covered the sale money, extra damages, and the costs tied to untangling the mess he had made. The house my parents lived in was put under a lien and later sold to satisfy part of what he owed. My mother called me cruel until nobody wanted to hear it anymore. Chloe's trip was canceled, the car never happened, and her online sympathy campaign fell apart as soon as people found the public records. They moved into a small apartment near the freeway, and from what cousins told me, they blamed me loudly in private and smiled stiffly in public. I stopped asking for updates after a while, because knowing they were miserable did not make me happier. Getting Grandma June's house back was quieter than I expected. Paul and Denise Harlan were decent people caught in the middle, and once the sale was unwound, they took their money back and left with an apology I didn't even think they owed me. I unlocked the front door alone on a gray morning, carrying no boxes and making no big announcement. The living room smelled faintly of paint and dust, but when I touched the door frame, I could still feel the place underneath all of it. I fixed the house slowly. I replaced the old wiring, cleaned out the gutters, painted the kitchen a warm cream color, and planted lavender where Grandma June used to keep tomatoes. On my days off, I sat on the porch with coffee while a stray orange cat judged me from the steps until he decided we lived together. For the first time in years, home did not feel like something I had to earn by being useful to someone else. Almost a year later, I got a collect call from my father. His voice sounded thin through the prison line, and for once he did not try to control the conversation. He said he was sorry, not because he had been caught, but because he finally understood that he had taken from the daughter who never demanded much and called it fairness. I believed he meant it, but belief was not the same as permission to come back into my life. I told him I forgave him enough to stop carrying hatred around like a second job. I also told him forgiveness did not erase boundaries, restore trust, or reopen a door he had spent years helping close. After we hung up, I sat at Grandma June's kitchen table for a long time, feeling sad and lighter at the same time. I had not gotten my family back, but I had gotten myself back, and that was not a small thing. Now the house is full again, just not with the people who thought they had the right to decide what I could lose. Friends come over after long shifts, coworkers spend holidays here when they have nowhere else to go, and the guest room is always ready for someone who needs a safe place to breathe. Grandma June wanted this house to protect me, and in the end, it did. I just had to be brave enough to protect it back. If this story stayed with you, please like, share, and subscribe so more people can find it. Stories like this matter because betrayal is often hardest to name when it comes from the people who taught us what family was supposed to mean. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. What warning sign would have made you stop trusting Mark first? The secret sale? The fake signature? Or the way he tried to call it family? Do you think Nora was right to pursue every legal consequence, or should she have accepted repayment and walked away? And when someone apologizes after the damage is done, what does forgiveness actually need to look like?